From ConnectBooster, I'm Ryan Goodman. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of talking to James Foxall, President and CEO of Tigerpaw. His company's PSA platform has helped scores of MSPs better manage their businesses over the past couple of decades. In addition to running a successful channel software company, James is also an advocate of the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a nonprofit that helps business owners achieve their personal and professional goals. Here's what he had to say.
Unlike some other peer groups that you might be familiar with, nobody will ever give you advice in an EO forum. I can't give you advice, Ryan. I don't walk in your shoes, right? And I don't want to give you advice that you take and it turns to be garbage and you're upset. I don't want to give you advice and have somebody else give you advice and you're never taking my advice and I feel less, right? It's a gift. That organization, if you join it, it is an absolute gift.
Well, James, thank you so much for being on the show, taking time out of your busy day to hang out with B&G and the ConnectBooster team here, as well as let us pick your brain about business.
Ryan, thank you for having me. Yeah, my days are unbelievably busy. We're rolling on a new growth bonus plan right now where we're giving everybody here basically a piece of the profit going forward. So that means individual meetings with every employee. So it's wonderful but brutal, and I'm really grateful for this time slot to kind of change that routine right now. So thank you.
Well, that's really exciting. And on a side note, here I go going off on a tangent. You figured that deal out. You and I need to sit down sometime and chat, because that's a big initiative. But I have to imagine it's a huge business move for you guys.
I will tell you what, I think it's a game changer for us. And I got that idea. So back in October, I went to an event in Texas for Entrepreneurs Organization, which maybe we'll touch on a little bit later.
We are, yeah.
I saw two common threads come out of these incredible presentations. One was meditation. I noticed a lot of the successful people had incorporated mindfulness meditation in their routine, so I started doing that. The other was giving your employees a piece of the pie. Nice. And it doesn't have to be equity, it could be something different. And so I embarked on, it's been almost a year. I came back in October to work on that. And today, at the end of today, will be the end of the rollout for all the individual employees, which we've been doing for the last 3 days. I will share with you we spent a lot of money to build this thing, but I will share it all with you, let you take a look at it. And if there's value to you, I'll help.
Dude, absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for the thoughts and advice. And I know, we're going to be digging into the story behind Tigerpaw today. And also you had mentioned the work with Entrepreneurs Organization. Before I dive into all of that, I actually want to dig in a little bit with you and have, our listeners learn a little bit more about you, if you don't mind me taking that direction and
whatever you want to do.
Questions.
Just cool. Be warned, I'm as likely to go down tangent rabbit holes as you are. So you keep bringing me back. We'll cover whatever you want to cover today.
We're gonna have a blast. Sit back, have a cigar, enjoy the show.
Love it. Right. Where do you want to start?
Here's a big, broad topic. How did you, get started in this business? IT service providers, management, telco. Where did this all begin?
So my origin story is kind of as close to the origin story of Tigerpaw. So I'm 51 today, just turned 51 this summer. I got my start at 15 years old. Oh, wow. So my father had started Tigerpaw, which at the time was called Information Management Consultants in 1984. And he would give me a ride into his one little office. He had one office that he shared an office space with a friend of his. I think it was Jim Silverman. It was an attorney. He had like one office in the corner. My dad rented that. And I would go in after school and I would flop 5 1/4-inch diskettes. So essentially I was the automated backup system for my father's business. And that's what I started doing at 15.
Oh, that is cool.
And then as the company grew, I grew with it. So I was doing documentation writing. Mm-hmm. I've been in sales at the time. I remember selling, I think they were 5 meg hard drives. That was an M and a meg. For $5,000. It was just crazy, right? But all new. I remember the birth of the fax machine. And so I was around all of these things, and I was the only person in the building that had a Windows computer in the early 90s, right? Windows 3.1 was out. It was just still starting to get traction. And I was doing the desktop publishing. So I was writing documentation for our DOS products. And I was screaming, we need a Windows product. We need a Windows product. But I'm the only one that had Windows. And my father finally got really freaking tired. I don't know if we're allowed to swear or not, but he got really freaking tired.
You do you, man.
Yeah, we got fucking tired of me bitching about not having a Windows product. I mean, that's the emotion behind it.
Yeah,
And he walked into my office one day and he had a box of Access 1.1, early version of Microsoft Access. And he slammed it down on my desk. He said, you want a Windows product? You build a Windows product. And so that started in a year and a half of 18-hour days. You know, I mean,
Wow.
when I dated my wife, she came and she would bring food to my office, and I would eat food with her while it would render, render an image or compile, and then I'd go back to work. And there was no internet, right? So we had CompuServe. For those of you who've been around like me, you maybe remember CompuServe. I downloaded every code sample I could find off of CompuServe. I literally owned every book written on Microsoft Access.
Wow.
So it was weird. Later on, I became an author and a speaker, and I got to speak on a circuit with a lot of the guys I looked up to, and I wrote books and co-authored with those guys. So, I worked really hard to be very good at what I did. It was an exciting time, and we've been talking with some of our developers today. I think why we accomplished some really cool things back then is without the internet, we didn't know anything wasn't possible, right? The attitude we had is there is a way to do it. I just haven't freaking figured it out yet.
Right.
And that's different from, I think, some of the attitudes we see today. So that was my attitude. And so I ended up becoming a really good developer, getting the eye of Microsoft and, being on their Access Insiders group, one of the top 35 people in Microsoft Access development community on the planet, and writing products, and then ended up, moving into managing the development team and building a QA team and managing the training and education and the customer support. Basically got to the point where as a VP, I ran everything except for the sales and marketing, which is my father's passion and what he's really, really good at. And then about a decade ago, 10 years ago, he stepped out to retire, and I took over running the company. And spent a number of years trying not to crater it into the ground. And I think I'm finally starting to figure some things out. But, entrepreneurialism and the CEO level is a journey, I've realized. It's not a destination. I used to have the attitude, get my dad out of the way and let me have this thing and it will go off like a rocket. Well, what I found out is I was in the second spot, he was in the first chair, and I thought they were this close. And when I found out when I got into his seat, the gap was a chasm, right? And so that's been my thing. So the last 10 years of working on the company, building a culture, creating the growth, and really exploring leadership, culture, and entrepreneurialism, right, in a way to be a better leader and to create a better organization. That's been my passion for the last decade. So that's kind of the snapshot. So unlike a lot of CEOs that came in the sales side, I'm a tech at heart.
Yeah.
Right? I was a Microsoft certified professional. I've written books on Microsoft. So, that's one thing I love about all the spaces you mentioned, the MSP space, the voice space, the office equipment space, is it's all technology, and I love technology and have a background in technology.
Well, and it's amazing as I listen to from 15 to where you are at today, you move from tactical to management to now completely immersed inside of leadership, defining culture, defining vision. That is a huge gap. What are the places that you've gone to develop that, skill set to make I'm in the weeds to now, I'm above directing?
Yeah, right. Because you can be a leader and be a poor leader, right? Anybody can be put in a position of management.
Right.
One of the greatest failings. I've got a list of failings I can give you on where I've gone sideways.
We all do.
Yeah,
we all do.
And and I'll be the first to publicly apologize, whether it's to my clients for doing something or it's my employees. So like we said, it's a journey.
Yeah.
One of the greatest mistakes that I've made though is promoting somebody who's good at doing something into managing others that do that, right? I learned the hard way a couple of times that management is a different skill.
Yeah.
You do not have to be an exceptional coder to be exceptional at managing coders.
Right.
But being an exceptional coder does not make you an exceptional manager of coders. And so, moving people into the wrong role, we're attraction shops. We use person, right seat terminology. So right person is culture fit, right? Do you belong on our bus? Are you the right person for us? Second is right seat. Are you in the right role? And so moving somebody to management that it's not a good fit for them is a horrible mistake. And are they potentially good at it and you can coach and mentor and help them? Great. But a lot of times it's just management is just not for people.
For sure.
I had some moments early on, a lot of self-doubt of, is this for me?
Sure.
I miss putting on my headphones and drinking my Mountain Dew and writing code.
Right.
And I had a lot of stumbles. So I got a couple of key turning points for me. One is I got hooked up with an organization called ICANN. It's the Institute for Career Advancement Needs. They're located here in Omaha. Cool. And they're a large nonprofit focused on leadership. And their motto is, to understand leadership, you have to understand people. And to understand people, you have to understand yourself. And so I got to take a program called Defining Leadership, which is a 3-month program. And it started with self-discovery. And I don't know if you've ever used like a DISC assessment or any personality assessment, right? We were a DISC shop for a long time, kind of came out of this. Sure. They use an assessment tool called Emergenetics. I always pronounce it wrong. And it's like a DISC, it's a different flavor. But the idea is understanding there are people handle stress in different ways. People communicate in different ways. Yeah. People have different desires and needs. And the whole idea with you have to understand yourself first is you got to get that. You got to understand how you tick, right? And after you understand how you tick and what makes you tick that way, then you can move into understanding how other people tick, and then how do you work with them. And a great example is my wife, right? When I got into these assessment tools, my wife and I did it first, and then I had my wife do it. Yeah. I did the leadership team, and then I rolled it out to the company. What I found out with my wife is the way she's wired, if she's had a rough day, she wants to talk about it, right? I did learn as a secondary note, she doesn't want me to problem solve. She just wants me to listen, right? That's a marital tip right there. And I figured that out. But the thing is, when I have a hard day, the last thing I want to do is talk. I need to be left alone. I've got to go disappear in my studio and be left alone. So I wish I would have known this earlier in our marriage, right? Because I can see my wife is frustrated. What do? Leave her alone.
Right.
Exactly the opposite of what she needed for her day, right? And when I talked to her about this, my wife, being smarter than me, said, "Oh, we know that about you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You come home in a grumpy mood. You'd say hi to the kids. You'd go downstairs, and the kids would be like, 'Is Dad okay?' And she's like, 'Just give him a half hour. He'll come up. He'll be fine.'" And so she kind of figured it out. So that's a long way to talk about. But I think when we talk about leadership, we got to talk about who we are and as people, because to be a great leader, you got to really work on being a great person, I think. So that was the start of my journey of, oh, that's why I act that way. Oh, that's why I get mad at this, or that's why I need this. I had a long-term employee that's still with me, a good friend of mine. He does not take hard news well right away, right? Like we're letting somebody go. Now, you tell him a day ahead of time, let him absorb it, and then the next day he's ready to deal with it. I used to think that was a personality flaw. I used to get angry about that. But learning that, no, that's just, he's wired that way. It's a type. I get it. I can work with it. So that was the start of my awakening of, wow, leadership is way more than just giving people things to do and beating them with sticks if they don't get it done. Right. So really exploring that. I was on the board of that organization for 3 years. That's how much I loved it. And got involved in Entrepreneurs Organization in a forum through there, which is probably my greatest growth. I would tell you the EO made me not just a better leader, they made me a better husband, a better father, and just a better human being. And again, I'll keep coming back to saying, you want to be a great leader, work on being a great person. So that's been it. I can point to tactical things that have allowed our company to succeed, but I think your question was more about that personal development of how did I move from a technical person to somebody who at least strives to be a really good leader. And it's been that journey of self-discovery and the discovery of others, and how then to work within those parameters. And that may be a very long answer to your question. But.
No, it was great, because it's funny, as I have more and more of these conversations, I see a couple of recurring themes coming up in questions like this. Number one, EOS and traction is a recurring theme, and it seems like companies that are really moving the needle are gravitating and grabbing on to, pure play EOS and just how to organize the team, drive accountability, drive growth, hit targets. Number two, you were talking all about empathetic leadership, but I liked your, I wouldn't say twist, but the emphasis upon internal reflection. You figuring out you, which I think drives that empathy on how we're all a little bit different and working to see it from the other point of view. And then all of a sudden we end up with the best outcomes, because we're listening to understand, not to just reply and brute force an idea through. So that's incredibly valuable stuff. And listeners, listen. This is great.
Hard-won lessons. When you talk about empathy, you know, one of the things that I learned through these things, by the way, I also got a therapist a number of years ago. I never had a therapist. I used to think, oh, that's a fail if I have to get a therapist. And somebody that I really respect, one of the smartest human beings I know, and I know a lot of smart people, he was like, well, why wouldn't you have a therapist? I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, Tiger Woods is a golf coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh, it's like, you know, there are tool sets and there are approaches to solving problems that we don't inherently know, right? So I get a therapist and I start working through some issues. I'm learning about myself and others. And when that empathy came in, I think one of the steps that I had in my journey was learning self-forgiveness, right? I was harder on myself than most, right?
Right, worst critic.
And when you start to learn, you know, wait a minute, I would forgive this if my child did it or my wife. I'd be like, it's not a big deal. Okay. But why can't I forgive myself? And when you start, that's that whole word. It starts with yourself. When you realize, you know what, I have flaws. I get angry at this point, or I do this, or I do that, but that's okay. I'm not a bad person. To me, that helped make that leap to understanding how other people, that empathy you talked about, right? It's like, no, I don't think the way you do, but I can completely appreciate that you think that way. Right. And how you interact. And I love this topic. It's mind expanding to me. Like I said, that's why it's made me better in every area of my life, because I relate to people better, I think.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Super, super valuable. And thanks for letting me walk us down that trail for a while. I think
it's great stuff, and I can't talk about it enough. And I'd encourage everybody to dig into some of that stuff. There's a lot of gold in there.
Great advice. So I'm going to shift gears because I have seen you on stage at a Tigerpaw conference playing music, playing guitar. And I know you're a musician. And so I have been told that playing music can help think through business decisions. Now, is that something that works for you? Is this more a, get business off the plate type of a topic for you?
That's a great question. I'd actually tell you some of my biggest business epiphanies actually come in a good hot shower, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Shower thoughts. Hashtag shower thoughts.
I like to take showers for fun. I like to be warm. So I go in there and there they come. I think I'm in that latter camp when it comes to playing music. Yeah. For me, it's more, I'd equate it more to like meditation. It's an opportunity for my brain to focus on something that is not work or problems, right? Cool. It's not about problem solving. It is just engaging in this thing and this thing only for the moment, which I think though, by doing those, just like with meditation, when I return to those problems, I can return to them a little bit more fresh and a little bit more neutral. So yeah, I would say I'm more in that secondary camp where it's an escapism with positive benefits later on.
Yeah. So your love of music, becoming a musician, where did that stem from? Where did that come from?
So I'm always loved music as a consumer, right? My earliest memories, I was like 4 years old, was listening to I think it was a Great Truckers album. It was a C.W. McCall stuff on there.
Yeah.
My first rock album was Kiss's Rock and Roll Over, which my parents got me. And my first concert, my dad took me to when I was about 7, was a 1977 original Kiss.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how far back. I was always the guy that would, for my vinyl, was cleaning it every time before I listened to it, which I still do. I listen to vinyl every day. Yeah. I would demagnetize my tape heads and my tape deck. And I was always that guy, the audiophile. And so I always loved it. And I think I was 19. I just graduated from high school, was listening. I actually think I was listening to a Kiss song at the time, and Ace Frehley's playing. And I was like, man, I wish I could play like that. And I had this epiphany. I'm like, well, I got free time and a credit card.
Nothing could happen.
I think we could figure something out. And so that's when I got my first guitar and got my first lessons and got started on that wonderful rabbit hole of music. And now for me, it's not just guitar, right? I actually have a music studio. It's filled with wonderful gear, and I do recording and it's all about creating music and consuming music. I'll listen to 6 hours. 6 hours a day, I'm probably listening to music. And I like different genres. I like to experiment with new things. So that is an absolute love and passion for me, is music. I love emotion. Unfortunately, I don't know why I like minor chords. I like down music. I'm big into Floyd, but I like music that makes me feel something. And it amazes me that you can put something over your ears and feel an emotion from the vibrations it gives you, right? That's just so cool to me.
That's super cool. That's super cool.
And I miss concerts. I miss concerts. So
I was going to say that's a big part that has to be missing right now that I imagine you're excited to get back. Just that.
Yeah, we had tickets to see Toad the Wet Sprocket in June, which I was excited for because I know one of the guys in the band.
Cool.
And then we had tickets to see Roger Waters in his latest tour here a few weeks ago but it's postponed. They won't say canceled because they have to.
Yeah, they start to try to Yeah. These things will get rescheduled.
They will, damn it.
Mark our words, man. This is happening. Hey guys, Ryan here for a quick break from our show. We want to thank James Foxall for joining us on today's episode. You can find out more about Tigerpaw on their website, tigerpaw.com. Now, this wouldn't be an ad break without running some ads, right? So I'd like to talk to you about our product, ConnectBooster. ConnectBooster is the premier accounts receivable management and payment automation tool for the channel. When our partners invoice or bill their clients, ConnectBooster automates the payment, automates the accounting, and gives 24/7, 365 visibility to end clients to see current invoices, past invoices, auto pay settings, securely stored checking and credit card data, and so much more. We all know it's hard enough to get in the door of a prospect. It's hard enough to close the deal. Guys, it shouldn't be hard to accept their money when the sale is made. If your business isn't already one of the thousands that's getting paid faster with ConnectBooster, reach out to us at connectbooster.com to learn more about how you can automate your cash flow. Before we get back to the show, we want to let you know all the ways that you can find us online. Visit our website, connectbooster.com/podcast, to listen to new episodes before they air on the podcast network. If you'd rather wait, our episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. So search ConnectBooster on your favorite platform, subscribe to get notified when there's a new episode. If you have suggestions for future episodes or you want to be a guest on the podcast, email us at podcast@connectbooster.com or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter and we'll point you in the right direction. Lastly, if you like the show, leave us a review wherever you're listening and tell us why you like it. Thanks for listening to the Confessions of an IT Business Owner. We'll get back to the podcast and talk to you soon. All right, I'm shifting again. Shifting again. Everybody buckle up. We're going to VC and M&A. There's a lot of opinions about venture capital coming into our space, and I'm just really interested on your take on how some of this money coming into our space has it affected your roadmap? Has it affected how that you guys are looking at product and who you're selling to?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, was it the Disney movie Up, where the one guy had the little house and everybody else was high rises, right? I mean, we're like one of the last independents standing, right? We have no private equity, no angel. We have no desire to have either. Yeah. I go down to our rec center and we've done 6 big conferences, like you said. And I've got all these banners from our conferences. And a lot of people don't understand the sponsors foot the bill. Big, people might say $600 to come for 3 days. I'm like, oh my God, if you have any idea how much we're feeding you in an alcohol alone, right?
Exactly.
You gotta have sponsors. And so people are asking me after COVID, will you have another event? Well, I go and I look at these banners and I look at all the sponsors we had for all these events. Almost all of them are gone. They've been purchased and rolled up into these 2 or 3 big private equity firms, right? And it's crazy that one owns, ConnectWise is, RMM as well as Continuum. I mean, it's insane. So it's been bizarre to watch. I think it's been good for Tigerpaw, but it's been bad for the industry. I mean, look, a private equity's model is to acquire somebody, to cut their talent, right? The expensive, good people that helped build it are gone. They're shown the door. I think we just saw one of them just let 300 or 400 people go in the last couple months, right? They reduced support and the customer relationships. We had a lot of people coming to us because they said, I was with, I'm trying not to name competitors, but with competitors, see, and you know, I had the same rep I dealt with for 8 years. Now they assign me somebody new, and he doesn't return my calls for 2 weeks. Right? They stop innovating because I think when you're in that monopolistic frame, you don't innovate. Right? For example, we're going to release a product next year we've been working on that adds Alexa integration to Tigerpaw.
Oh,
so imagine on the road being able to talk to your phone and get info about your business. Or how many times have you been in a meeting where, you know, what is that number? Well, we'll have to run a report later. Can you imagine having an Alexa device where you can just ask your business questions, right? That's really cool. But the competitors, that's not where they don't get their money out of innovation, and they don't, you know, and there's nobody there to get the juice out of innovating. And then the final thing they do is they raise prices, right? So, I mean, we've seen this in the office equipment space. It's the same place. So get rid of the talent, stop innovation, raise prices, because where else are you going to go? And so I think it's an unfortunate thing for the industry as a whole, because, you know, people think there's competitors. And if you actually look at the roll-ups, some of the PEs own what appear to be competitors. Right. And competition is good. ConnectWise was a fierce competitor. I mean, they were. Autotask as well, but not to the level that Arnie was. You know, I mean, that's why he sold it for 1.4 billion. I will also tell you, in a way, Arnie may have saved Tigerpaw's life, because we had gotten complacent. We've been around a long time, and he showed up and started kicking us around, right? Yeah. And so competition forces you to be better. It forces you to be fair on your pricing. It forces you to continue to innovate your product, right? It forces you to take good care of your clients. And without competition, those are the things that disappear. And so I think as a whole, our industry is suffering from the lack of competition and innovation, which those are the things that made it so friggin' awesome. And look at the tool set. I got a chance to talk to business owners in all kinds of spaces. The managed services space in particular, the IT, what used to be the VAR space, one of the most progressive spaces I've ever seen. The tool sets, the pricing models, how they sell. There's organizations you can join to learn to market. There's organizations you can join to learn to sell. I mean, it's astounding. It moves it has moved at a pace that other industries just can't even imagine or fathom, right? The automation. And I just think it's sad, because with the competition destroyed, that is what made it great and make it accelerate is disappearing. And so we're trying to stay focused on, you know, in some ways we're very modern, like the Alexa integration. And others, we're still an old school company. I still have an 800 help desk. It's right here in Nebraska. That anybody in your company can call. We average about 3-minute hold time to talk to a human being. We got rid of our account executives, which were there to help you, but also to upsell. Right? Sure. We now have customer advocates. Customer advocates get zero compensation for you adding licenses to your product. Their only bit of compensation they get off of a client is a very small hit on your renewal. Cool. And remember, Tigerpaw One now is everything's included for one price, which is we're the only one that did that. So once you come on board with us, we're going to assign you a human being that has no other interest in making you happy using what you've already paid for, so you stay with us. And that's an alignment, right? What that does is it puts that person's alignment with our customer's alignment. And so nobody says to us anymore, you only call us when you want money. But with the private equity side, I mean, we're hearing that all the time. Now that they're conglomerates, if you're owning product A, they're calling you to sell you product B, C, and D all day long, because they all own that. So I think we still have a fundamental different attitude about innovation and taking care of our clients. That I think is now resonating more than ever because of all that private equity rollout. I was just going to say, we're not for sale today. That's not our, you know, who knows? Someday we will, right? There'll be an exit, but we've been doing this 36 years. We're not in a hurry. Well, and I really appreciate the thoughts and opinion on the subject. And it also sounds like it's really helping breeding opportunity for you guys in the approach, like, okay, this is happening in the market, but here's how we're going to take a stance. You're using it to your benefit, right? I mean, you're really creating some differentiated ways to deal with your partners, your clients, and bring on new clients that maybe people feel like is missing the mark in other areas. And you guys are going to be able to step in and fill that need. We've recently got a couple of clients that were loyalists to our competitors. And we only got them because of the roll up and the way they're now being treated. So yeah, I think that's important though, right? For everybody watching this is chaos breeds opportunity. I mean, COVID is an example. Man, you know, technology, we've been lucky, right?
Oh,
I mean,
right.
I've got one friend that what he owns is multi-location, what he says is a multi-location children's fun factory. I mean, it's essentially youth and teenage gymnastics. There's no social distancing for that, right?
Yeah.
But you look at the technology space. I got another friend who owns a travel company. Yeah, you can imagine that's not a good spot for him. But you look at the technology and look at all these amazing innovation technology companies that said COVID, work from home. You know, what products and services can we offer? How do we help them provide security for all of this stuff that we would have never would have allowed before? Well, we don't have a choice now. There are going to be devices everywhere.
No, everyone's in, yeah.
You know, I know somebody else who owns a basically a how would you describe it? Water restoration, right? You get flood damage or water damage. They're the ones who fix it. Well, they pivoted to COVID sterilization.
Yeah.
So if you've had COVID in your building, they can come in through this process and clean. So I think that entrepreneurial spirit, it's not always possible. I don't want to say anybody can do it, but looking at those things and saying, you know, what can we do? So I'm going to take you down different rabbit holes, right?
Yeah, let's go.
I'm a big believer, it's E plus R equals O. So event plus response equals the outcome. A lot of people think the event equals the outcome, right? COVID hit, life sucks, we're screwed. Well, but you got a response in there. There's an R in that equation.
Right.
And so, you know, sometimes it's just which side of the shit sandwich are you going to bite into, right? I mean, you don't have necessarily some good options, but you have a less worse option.
Yeah.
And so you know, looking at all of these situations, always from my response, this is happening, what's my best response? And so, yeah, we've tried to take a look at what's going on with the consolidation, which by the way, scared the hell out of me at first.
Sure.
We thought, how are we going to compete with these behemoths that own everything? But looking at it, well, what is the unique proposition that we bring? What makes us special? Let's focus on what makes us special and not focus on the things that maybe we're weaker at.
Right. No, that's incredible. And I love the point to what side of the sandwich are you going to eat first, but at least you get to the thing you can control is your response, right?
That's the one thing you can control.
And I think that is a really nice tie back to some of the business development personally, I think that you've done as well, the ability to reflect, sit back, you know, yeah, we all have that bit of a panic response sometimes when news comes our way, but the ability to just kind of to center and then control the things that we can control. That's great advice, man.
It's a much shorter, more concise way to say it. I love it. I agree with you.
No, that's you're hitting on some just incredible things that I think, you know, listeners really need to, you know, listen to this a couple of times, probably take some notes and go back and do some study, because it'll make a difference in their business if they take these points seriously. And if
anybody wants more clarification, shoot me an email or find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can recommend books and organizations, or if you just want to chat about something that resonates, I tell people I'm busy and I run a company, but I care about this stuff and I like this stuff. And so if I can provide value, you know, I'm happy to do so.
Oh, that's incredible, James. So that's actually a really nice transition into, you know, what I'm understanding is one of your big passions being involved in the entrepreneurs organization. Oh, yeah. Why don't you give us a 10,000 foot view of what that organization is and what they do?
So the Entrepreneurs Organization, I'm in my 6th year. It's definitely something I would go, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and have done earlier. It's a global organization of entrepreneurs, and the primary benchmark to get in the organization is you have to be an entrepreneur that has a business that's doing $1 million or more a year in revenue.
Okay.
So everybody that you're going to encounter is in that situation. And if you're in that situation, you face a lot of challenges that other people don't. You know, I've got friends that don't have businesses, but I can't really discuss some of my challenges with those friends. They just don't get it, right? And sometimes the numbers are, you know, when you're talking about making payroll, you know, at hundreds of thousands of dollars, they just can't relate. Yeah. So EO provides an organization where people can relate. And, you know, there's a lot of learning events, both local and regional and global. Like I mentioned that our growth bonus plan came out of me going down to Dallas, right? And that was you want to talk about an impactful. Wow, there's some things that make me tear up just on some of the speakers, you know. And we even got to spend time with George Bush, President Bush, on the Dallas Cowboys Stadium grass, about 60 of us, and hear him speak. Wild. You know, and whether or not you like the guy or not, to hear somebody again tell their story, right?
Yeah.
And that's the big thing of EO. The biggest value I got is you can participate in a forum. A forum is six to eight people. You meet once a month, and there's a lot of rules around this. I'm going to give you the short version, right?
Sure.
But forums are an environment where open and honest conversation is required. Trust and respect is required. 100% confidentiality is required.
Yeah.
Because this is where you'll bare your soul. I mean, this is where, and we use what we call the Gestalt language. So it's the language of story, right? So unlike some other peer groups that you might be familiar with, nobody will ever give you advice in an EO forum. I can't give you advice, Ryan. I don't walk in your shoes, right? And I don't want to give you advice that you take and it turns to be garbage and you're upset. I don't want to give you advice and have somebody else give you advice and you're never taking my advice and I feel less, right? So what it is it's stories. So for example, in a typical meeting, there might be a presentation where somebody might want to talk about embezzlement in their company. Right?
Sure.
And we spend a lot of time talking about feelings, right? The embezzlement happened, but how do you feel about it? Well, I feel ashamed. I feel guilty that I didn't put this in place to prevent it. I feel fear that my customers will leave me if they learn about this, right? And so you get an opportunity through a coached opportunity to present, and then every one of your forum mates, they have about 3 to 5 minutes that they get to share a story back with you. So there's no advice, it's story sharing. Oh, Ryan, I can relate. This is what happened to me. Here's how I felt about it. Here's what I did and how it turned out. And then the next person goes down the line. And the basic rule is if you don't have a similar story, you hone in on the feeling. Boy, Ryan, I heard fear and I heard shame. I've got a share on both of those. Which would you like to hear, right? And this may sound weird, but I'll tell you what, when you get seven or eight people that walk, they're all different kinds of businesses, but they understand the pains you're going through. Different stages of family development and kid development. And you hear these stories and then you're free to take what you want or not take. It's like a Christmas sweater, right? You say, thank you very much. It may go in a closet and you may never wear it. You may put it on the way home. It doesn't matter. You thank them for the gift and you move on. But what I like when I say better husband, better father, better leader, I've got all of that. I mean, I've had moments where I've shared about my family and I've heard shares from other people whose kids were older that I was able to extrapolate from that and go, wow, what path do I really want to go down? It is the most unbelievable, powerful experience in my entire life. It's life-changing. Cool. And some of the things that you get out of that too is, as an entrepreneur, you might think, wow, that guy's really got his shit together, right? Look at that car he drives and the house he lives in and how pretty his wife is. When you're hearing the true stories behind all that, you realize nobody's got it figured out. It's
all real. Yeah.
I know people, that I've met through EO that have more money than I will ever have in my life, but I wouldn't trade my relationship with my wife for their relationship with their wife. Right. And so you start to, through this, for me at least, it was starting to really define what is success. Because I thought it was having more. I thought it was a big exit, right? And I started to realize that's, for some people, that may be success. I'm not saying it's not. That's not my version. Yeah. So that's what EO has brought. So the practical, tactical, here's a session on sales. Here's a session on bonus plans. To the mind expanding, how do you operate and how do you see the world? To these forum shares. It's the totality of this thing. It's a gift. That organization, if you join it, it is an absolute gift. And I'm on the board for Nebraska. This is my second year on the board. Okay. So I'm very excited to give back. And, I probably just made a little commercial here, but I mean,
I think it's great.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and I think the reality is, this show is listened to by entrepreneurs. And so they're going to be going through a lot of those, you've heard the phrase, it's lonely at the top, oftentimes we get siloed, who are you going to talk to about some of these things where people can actually understand. And, you're saying you're not getting that direct advice back, but really you're hearing a story back that is directly related to that same type of struggle, emotion, subject line, which sounds really healthy. I mean, as humans,
powerful. And one of the things you left out, one of the tenets is non-judgment. Yeah. Right? Non-judgment. And it was hard for me at first because we judge everybody and everything by our nature. But when you're in a confidential environment, 100% confidential, where you know you're not being judged, right? Because what you learn really quickly is it's easy to judge you, but again, I don't live your life. I don't solve the problems you have to solve.
Yeah.
So when you have this 100% confidential, non-judgmental environment where you can talk about your feelings and nobody's going to tell you what to do about them and nobody's going to judge you for them. Holy crap, that's a magic soup. Yeah. And like you said, these are things that you just typically can't just talk to anybody. Even your best friend is just not going to relate or understand to these things. Or you can't talk about them in public because it could put your company at risk, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So to have this place, this safe zone to do that, and for me, I was excited. I'm a bit of a touchy-feely feelings guy, so it resonated. But I've seen a lot of people that are really skeptical, and then you talk to them 2 months later, and they're just all in. Yeah.
So how do service providers that are listening to this today, where can they go to get involved and learn more and possibly join that organization?
If you've got a business that qualifies, I would highly recommend you reach out to your local EO chapter.
Okay.
If you want to, they can reach out to me and I'll find out who to introduce them to. I'll do that step. But you can also look on the EO Global's website and find your local chapter.
Okay.
Nobody's going to high pressure you, right? That's the thing. This is one of those things I recommend that you look into, understand the people in EO. We do most of our business North America, very little local, right? So I didn't realize, even though I've been 36 years, I didn't know a lot of local business owners. Right. Now I've got dozens that are friends. That alone was cool. And it's not about selling them anything. It's that camaraderie. So
that community.
meet those people, learn what it's about. If it's not for you, pass on it. Mm-hmm. But man, I'd highly encourage you at least, give them a call or send them an email and say, hey, tell me what's up with this program, because it's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate that. So I have one question that I love to ask everybody. Again, it's a gear shift, but reflecting back, you'd said you'd started 15 years old inside of the organization. That's a long time you've been working in a professional capacity. And this can be business, this can be personal. Reflecting back on all that you've accomplished, what wisdom would you share to your younger self, whether that was in your late teens, early 20s?
I have to pick one.
I'll let you go as long as you want.
Okay. I've got three if we want to cross the personal to business.
Sure.
First one is get therapy.
Cool.
I carried a lot of baggage, had a lot of anger, was really, and this isn't the place to talk about it. My forum is, but learning why I felt the way I did, learning about where I struggled with my self-worth and image, learning to deal with my perceptions of how people saw me versus how I saw myself.
Sure.
I would have said therapy. Number one thing I should have done. I shouldn't say should, right? We're on a journey. I can't take back the steps I made. But if I were to go back to my younger self, I'd say you go find yourself a good therapist, spend some time with them, and everything in your life will get better. That would be cool. Second would be, there's two from a business perspective. One would be joining EO earlier, qualifying. And the other, without a doubt, as you mentioned, would be implementing traction. And that's the big one. If I could go back when I took over, I talked about that gap between the first and second C. Man, if I could have rolled out traction from day one, it would have been a whole different experience.
I love the way that you're tying it back to the journey, though. It's so easy to look back on that hindsight 2020, but boy, I'll tell you what, from everything we've talked about today, you guys have some exciting years ahead, man.
I think we do. And with the growth bonus plan, everybody's excited. So
keep an eye
on. Some people think, well, they're a dinosaur. They've been around, but no, we're constantly evolving. That's why we're still around.
That's awesome.
So, if we have anything that might be of value to you, check us out. You might be surprised because we're not going anywhere.
James, thanks again for your time, man. This was so great. I've got notes all over my sheet. Again, I'm so selfish. I learn so much when I do these interviews, and you taking out the time inside of your busy schedule certainly means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to our listeners. So thank you.
You give me a chance to talk about stuff that is important to me and I love. So thank you. I'm the one that's got the gratitude. If you got value out of it, even better. But thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Appreciate it, brother. You take care, and looking forward to the next time we get to see each other in person, my friend.
You and me both. Yes.